Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called Forestation. Forestation is for 2 to 4 players, about an hour and 20 minutes to play, maybe a little longer than that, ages about 13, 14 and up. In the game Forestation, the world is, as we know it, losing wildlife, unfortunately, and we've lost about half of the amount of animals we had just in the sea alone. And because of that, we have now decided, as forest rangers and officers and officials, to start creating our own forestation parks, where we're going to increase the number of animals that live there, try and get the other animals from the wild to come there, as well as hunting them ourselves or taking them ourselves from the wild and placing them in our new forest ranges so that they can flourish. Now, we are all competing against each other, trying to gain better animals, more rangers, all this good stuff, trees, so that they can start populating in the world and start spreading out with the remaining animals we do have left. Now, that being said, there's going to be 4 different years with 4 seasons per year, and as you go throughout the game, in every single round, you're going to be revealing different rounds, or different season cards for each of the rounds, and as you do that, different things are going to occur. Now, after the last season on the last year, the game will be over, and you're going to tally up all of the points and see who the winner is based on whoever made the best park with the most diversity, because that's what is important when it comes to putting all these animals into this park, so we can keep the species, the lineage of all these species going on for a long time to come. Anyway, let me go ahead and show you what the game looks like and kind of how it's played. Okay, so let's talk about what you get in Forestation. Now, the first thing you get to know is the board over here, which has all the different action spaces and the years as well as the seasons. And you're also going to get cards. Forest cards, Prey, Predator, as well as the seasonal cards. There's going to be a ton of these little things, which are your forest tiles, and you have a front and a back with them. You're going to get a lot of animals, little fish like these, as well as your prey and predators. There's elk and bears and eagles and moose and squirrels and cougars and all types of things. You're also going to get 5 different types of trees: cedar, birch, maple, arbutus, and fir. And you're going to then get different things like park wardens, wildlife officers. These are all your different player items, such as your own officers that do certain things, as well as your raise awareness tiles, or raise awareness tokens. And you're finally going to get some coins over here, and these guys here are called the nature houses, which you'll be putting on your board as well. The last thing you're going to get is a die that you can be using during the seasonal aspects of the game. Now, let's go ahead and talk about startup and how to set the game up. The first thing you do is you take all the forest cards, you shuffle all these piles of cards up, place all the forest cards right here, and you're going to place all of these 4 of these cards right here, just in this little area here, which indicate that there's action spaces at the top here, and these are the cards you can obtain as well as all of these actions. Next, you're going to take the prey and place them here, and the predator, and you're going to place them over here. Next, you're going to go ahead and place these seasonal cards after you're done shuffling them. There's going to be dealt, I believe, 16 of them, and you're just going to deal them out like this. And once the board is filled, you no longer need these cards. They move away, so that gives a little bit of replayability. You're going to start here, and the game is over here. Every round is going to involve flipping over one of these guys and seeing what it does. You're then going to give every single player a certain amount of currency, a board, two actions to start with, as well as 3 to be used for later points when you actually acquire them. So you get $2. You're also going to get your 5 awareness tokens, which you can gain throughout the game, and a predator card as well as a prey card. Finally, you determine who is going to start the game, and the last player is going to receive an extra buck. Okay, so I talked about how to set the game up as well as what you get to begin the game with. Now, when you start off as the first player, you're going to get to choose to use one of your workers to perform an action. And there's about 20 actions on the board, with 4 actions that are constantly changing as people choose them. Now, you're going to place your meeple on one of the locations of the actions, and you're going to then perform that action. Some of them can be you're going to gain money, others are going to gain animals. You could have animals wander in, prey or predators, as well as you're going to be able to do stuff like collecting donations, raising awareness, and even hiring wildlife officials and officers and the like. You're also going to be able to collect different real estate, such as parks with water or just basic parks. And after you take your action, the next player is going to take their action until everybody has ran out of actions. At some point, some players may have more actions than others, in which they would perform their action more than once, depending on how many players there are and how many actions they have. But once every single player has done their actions, you're going to flip over a season card. Now, season cards are going to look just like this, and they're going to say something different on them every time, in which it will be performed for either the entire round or instantaneously. This one says seeds are free for this season, and seeds are going to be used to make different trees in your forest. So people might want to collect seeds throughout this specific season. After 4 of the season cards have been played, the year is over, and you're going to do stuff like feeding your animals, the predators specifically, having the prey breed, and also having your officials paid for, your meeples paid for, and a couple other things as well. And the idea, well, you can continue to do that until you go throughout all 4 years. Well, let me go ahead and show you a couple basic turns of the game. Alright, so we're about to begin the game, and I'm going to go ahead and give yellow the starting player icon. And we're going to be playing with red, blue, and yellow, and you're going to place their point marker right here for the last remaining part of the setup. After that, these little extra actions are going to go over here, and this will indicate the first player. However, other people can get first player by placing their meeple or their workers here to collect that for the next round and or next season. Yellow is going to then get to choose any of these spaces, as well as these, or these guys here, to then collect on their action. However, with these guys here at the bottom of these things show you what you need in order to be able to collect the cards. You need a fish to do this one, you need a house, a nature house, as well as the first player icon to do this, you need a grizzly bear for that, so on and so forth, and there's a ton of different ones, so we're not going to go into all the actions of this game. But I will go through the basic ones. Prey migration, you have 2 options. You can either draw the prey migration card and simply replace any other ones you may have, so you can only have 1 at any point in time. Or you can take this action and draw 2 and choose 1 and keep 1, and you can only have 1 at any time as well. The same will work for predator migration, it'll just be cards over here. Real estate is you can spend 4 for this specific tile or spend 4 for this specific tile. As I said before, these tiles are double-sided, so you can choose either one, except for the starting tile, which is what you start with there. Wildlife officers and park rangers, the cost of all of these actions are going to be right above the box where you're going to place your worker. So if you place your worker here, you have to spend the 1 cost for here. The pluses indicate what you're going to get. So wildlife officer is simply one of these white tokens, and you're going to place it literally on one of the boards you have here. So it'd be over there. Also, the park ranger would be the same thing, and they do different things based on these cards here. You have the 4 seasons fair, which are infinitely amount of workers, and you're going to just gain a money whenever you put a worker here. You can buy seeds. You can get a community grant for +2, which doesn't cost you anything at all. Raising awareness is going to give you one of these tokens here throughout the game, and after you get about a couple of them, you can actually go ahead and go over here and collect donations. Watering seeds will flip over the seeds that you normally have and turn them into trees, and you'll be able to put them onto the map here. So they start off like this, which is a basic seed, and then after you've bought the seed for the 2, you can use another worker to put on here and flip over the seed, and that will give you a tree, in which you're going to be using for prey, because prey needs trees to survive. If they don't have trees, they're going to wander off. Another thing you could do is recruit workers, and this is a very vital task that is very important for most worker placement games. Recruiting workers is going to cost you 2. You're going to put this here, and you're going to acquire a new worker simply by putting it right next to it, indicating that on your next seasonal card, you're going to go ahead and get an extra worker, which is really nice. You're also going to have stream restoration, which is going to let you get trout, and you can put them in your sea areas or your lake areas over here. And you're also going to be able to capture and release. It'll cost you 3, and you can capture an animal you want and release it back into your specific park. So the game is going to be constantly evolving as it goes on. So the first thing that usually most players want to do is either buy a worker, maybe get the community grant, which is really good at the beginning of the game, or if you want to start saving up for raising awareness for your park, this will become handy for later on during the seasons where you're going to gain points. Now to start, we're going to simply flip over this Year 1 Season 1 card and go along the track for each round. So this is technically going to have 16 rounds in this game, in which all players will use all of their meeples or workers, in which case the next card will get flipped over and it'll start all over again, like most games that involve worker placement. This says roll a die for each tree on a forest tile without a park. Park warden, which is a black tile, indicates it right there. If you don't have one of these little black indicators on your area and you have trees, you have to roll the die, and if you roll a 1, you will lose that tree for each tree that you roll the die for. After that, everybody has done that, then to go back into the worker placement phase, you're going to clean up. So we'll start off, maybe we will go for the community grant, which will give you $2. So this player, that's $1, sorry. Well, this player will get $2. The next player over here, red, will go ahead and choose something as well. Maybe he wants to do buying seeds, and so he'll spend his $2 that he earned, and then he will actually be able to get a seed. Maybe he wants a fur seed, so he'll just put it over there for later use. Now remember, in a 2-player game, these extra spaces All the ones here are removed. They don't count. You can go ahead and block them because they are not used. However, the spaces down here, which are separated, are used. And the ones that are infinite can be used as many times as you want that you have meeples and or workers for. So in a 2-player game, you have a little bit limited on actions, but not really because there's so many options to choose from. You just can't choose that same space more than once. In a 3-player game, all of these spaces open up, so you can do community grant and places like real estate more than once, which is really nice. The next player gets to go, and that is Green. Maybe Green wants to buy a park warden, so he would spend his 1 money, and he would go ahead and grab one of these little pieces here and put it on his places. And you would continue going along, placing new things, gaining, this is a $1, and you can do this infinite times, and until all players have played the round. After that happens, you take off all of the meeples here from all of the players, which is basically the cleanup step, and you go to the next seasonal step. Then you do what it says. Collect $1 for every tree on a forest tile with a nature house. So the nature house is obviously this. If you have acquired a nature house, which are these guys here, and place it on your area, and you have a tree there, you're going to get $1 for each tree, which is really nice. And you would move on and do, once again, the action phase again. You're going to do that up until the 4th season on the 1st year, and after that, you're going to start doing a little bit of maintenance. All of your guys are going to breed. For every animal you get that is a prey, if you have 2 of them, you get an additional 1 for free. Every predator that you have is going to require a certain amount of food. Bears are going to cost more, whereas the eagles are going to cost less. Eagles eat squirrels, bears will go ahead and eat moose, and you got elk, which will go ahead and be eaten by cougars. And so if you don't have enough food to feed the animals on your areas over here, then you are going to lose the bears. And if you don't have trees to keep the prey happy and healthy and hidden, then you're going to lose the prey as well. Sometimes animals will get bred, and if they don't get eaten, they also go away as well. So after everything has been done as far as eating and breeding is concerned, everything that is not able to be put back has to move off, and they go off somewhere else and live happy, healthy lives, hopefully. Then after that, you'll start the next round again, and you will flip over this card here and do what it says until the final year-end step. At that point, you are then going to score, tally up bonuses, and there's a bunch of things that can happen depending on what you have. So if we were to look at just this space over here, maybe we have, let's see, we can give ourselves a prey over here, and this is a tree, and maybe we'll give ourselves another different type of tree over here, and a different type of prey as well. And you're also going to be putting down the different predators, so this one here and this one here. And so at the end of the game, it'll say certain things like, if you have all 5 different types of trees, you gain 5 points. If you have all 5 different types of prey, you gain 5 points. If you have all the different predators, for each and every little fish you have, all the different park wardens and wildlife people, as well as the different nature areas. Depending on how big your board is, you're going to get points. There's a lot of different ways to gain points at the end of the game. And you're going to be using this tracker for at the end of every year step, as well as at the end of the game to gain points. And you can go negative because if you don't pay your workers at the end of every single year, and it costs 1 for every worker, you're going to lose 2 points. But otherwise, you're just going to go along the board, and the person with the most points at the end of the game is going to be the winner of Forestation. Okay, so that's a basic idea of how you play Forestation. Now, there's a couple things during the year phase that I left out, but I'd go ahead and mention them now anyway, just so you guys have an idea. During the year phase, you're going to actually gain $1 for each and every single little house you have, the nature houses. You're going to gain $1, as well as you're going to pay every single worker $1. I know I said this before, but you have to pay them $1, and if you don't, you're going to lose 2 points of the game. That's why there's negative point section. Also, for every single prey you have, you're going to gain 2 points. So you're going to, if you have different like cougars and tigers and all that kind of stuff on your forest, you're going to gain 2 points for each and every one of them at the year marker. Not including how many points you're going to gain after all 4 years. But yeah, every single, there's 3 phases in which you're going to gain points for predators and gain money for the different houses you have, as well as lose money for the different workers you have. I just figured I'd mention that though. There's also a couple other little caveats throughout the game that I didn't fully mention because there's a lot. Let me go ahead and talk about the Forestation cards here, the forest cards here, because there's quite a few of them, and a couple of the actions they do. For instance, the Cougar Migration. If you have a cougar, you may draw an extra card when taking the Predator Migration action, but you must still return all but 1 to the discard pile. All requirements on Cougar Migration cards may be ignored as long as you have an empty Predator box. So generally speaking, when you draw these cards here, When you draw the prey migration cards, they're going to require you to do certain things to put animals on the board, whereas the capture and release to action will let you just simply place them down. For instance, and it's cheaper to do the cards, that's why you're going to choose to do this action more. Squirrel arrives when you're in your forest when it can be placed on a forest tile with a park warden. So if there's a park warden, a squirrel will come. A squirrel will arrive in your forest when it can be next to a birch tree. So if you have a birch tree in your forest, you get a free squirrel. A beaver arrives in your forest when it can be placed on a forest tile with a wildlife officer. And the same would happen with the predator cards as well. So they're going to have certain requirements. These action tiles will have similar requirements as well as that. But just so you have an idea throughout as I talk about a couple of these. Leader of the pack is at each deforestation event. If you have a wolf in your forest, roll a die, and on a 3 to 6, deforestation stops, and one of your wolves need not feed at the end of the year. That's really awesome. Flip that wolf over to remind you, but remember to flip it back once the year is over, because animals need to feed, and they cost a certain amount of points for each of the animals. And usually they kind of cancel each other out, like a squirrel needs to be eaten by a hawk, a bear needs to eat a moose, and that kind of thing. So you kind of get an idea of how to organize your board. And there are other ones too. Master Planter. Seeds cost only $1 when you buy them for the seed action. Field Biologist. You may capture and release for only $2 by placing a worker on the space below. What's also unique about these action cards here too is that when you purchase them, you are able to use them indefinitely, and some of them aren't even actually usable. They are just things that happen throughout the game for the rest of the game for you. So things that might be cheaper for you or reduce the cost of certain things. Other ones of them actually will help you increase your raise awareness, and when you're fully done, it'll let you collect donations with that as well, which is really, really, really powerful. But there's a lot of different options throughout the action deck, and it continually flows through as players continually choose to pick them. I think when players typically place their meeples on the little action spot, you're going to take the card and place it next to your area, and then replace it with a new card for later actions to be used on. But yeah, that is the idea of the game. I figured I'd go into detail with a little bit of the cards here and how they work, and the fact that you're going to be able to place all of these different tiles together in any fashion you want to. Just like this, however you want to do it. You can even kind of make it make more sense if you want by placing them together like that, which is kind of fun, and that's what I did. But let me tell you what I think about it. Now, Forestation is a worker placement game that is very similar to a lot of other worker placement games in the fact that you're going to have workers and you're going to be placing them on a board, and these are going to be your actions for the turn. What's unique about the game, like I said, already specified, is the seasonal cards. There's things going to happen at the beginning of the round, and they're always very different. The biggest thing in this game that I think is really, really unique is the forest card market, which is meaning that not only there's like 20 actions you can take throughout the entire game, but there's also like 50 or 60 other cards in here in which you're going to be perusing through, and it's always going to be randomized, what different actions you can take, as well as how they preserve in front of you. These are going to be your own unique special actions, which are so cool. Another thing too is it kind of reminds me a little bit like Caverna or Agricola, where you're trying to place things on your map. The difference is in this one that after you place on Agricola or Caverna, that's it, you're done, you've built as much as you can. This one you continue to make a forest as large as you possibly can. However, there are things that can falter, that can add folly to you in that regard. Deforestation can occur. If you don't have park wardens on all your different forest spaces and you roll a 1, you can lose out on trees, as well as hunters can come into your forest and kill your animals. For instance, I was doing very well our first game. I played a 2-player variant, which is obviously where you lose some of the action areas, but I had a hunter come in and kill every single one of my beavers. I rolled a 1 3 times in a row and lost all of my beavers, which really sucked. I also was able to roll 2 ones on deforestation, and I lost 2 of my trees, and my animals didn't have those trees at the end of the year, so they also left as well. So it can be very deadly if you build too fast without containing your forest. You need to have park wardens, and you need to have forest rangers, and you need to have the little houses and whatnot, so that everything kind of it slowly creates out. But however, you have that option of going faster and building more and more and more and hoping that nothing bad happens to your animals. Rolling a 1 doesn't seem like it's so likely, but when you have to roll it 7 times, you're bound to lose at least one thing, so do be aware of that. The unique aspects of the game involving the negative point aspect, where you're not paying your workers, you don't lose your workers, you just go down the negative point aspect. And it's also interesting to note too that the beginning of the game is very low scoring. Like, we got to like 18 points after like the second year. However, after the third and then the fourth year, when we got all the bonus points, we went scoring all the way up to the 60s and 70s, and the track has about an 89-point score. So you're actually going to be fine, not need to go any farther. It's not going to be like you're going racing around the board, kind of like Ticket to Ride. But yeah, that is the basic idea of the game. It's a very fun game. I really like the feel of the game. The theme definitely comes out. Honestly, this is one of the more thematic games I've played in a long time because I do feel like I'm building the forest. I feel like I have to manage the predator to prey ratio. I need to have diversity in my forest, otherwise I'm going to lose out on points at the end of the game. Animals will start eating animals I don't want them to eat, and if they can't eat, they'll start leaving my forest. It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun. The forestation images, all the artwork is really nice. And I mean, it just feels really good. It's almost like a take back to nature for a guy who rarely goes out into nature, be that as it may. I like all the different trees and all that kind of stuff. It gives you a feel of that diversity in a park, in a wildlife, and the complications involved in making a unique forest and stuff like that. I mean, I can't imagine what these guys go through in doing that kind of stuff, but this is kind of like a small glimpse into the aspect of somebody trying to create something good in the world, and I can't say anything better than that. Like, it's a wonderful, fun little game. There are a couple cards in the 2-player variant, I think, that don't make as much of a difference in the 3 or 4 player variants of the game. They're very strong. They can be very strong. But there's quite a few of them, and so you can both get it, and it kind of balances it out in that way. But if you don't get those cards, I can imagine it kind of sucking for certain players. Like, the Raise Awareness card is really strong. So maybe tone down on that one, especially in the 2-player, or even take it out if you want. But in the 3 and 4, it kind of... it even broadens the game even more, so that is not as relevant because players are going to stop you from using spaces that give you that specific power. And there's a lot of cards in this forest card deck that can improve actions specifically just for you in this game. But nevertheless, a very fun game. I am definitely keeping this game, and it is getting my stamp of approval. Forestation, a wonderful game. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. If you like this game, don't forget to check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment, as well as checking out Forestation in the comments, the description below, where you're going to find out where to play or where to find and to kickstart this game. I think a couple of the I think 5% of the proceeds go to charity, which is really cool. I think it helps the wildlife community out. Wonderful though, very thematic. I really enjoyed this game. It gave me a sense of well-being, like I was doing something good for the world. Although maybe I wasn't. Nevertheless, though, do go ahead and check that out, as well as check out our website, unfilteredgamer.com. Tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. Has that huge Kickstarter list where you can go ahead and check out the games that are really cool, that I think are really fascinating, and you don't have to go searching on Kickstarter for them. Also, go ahead and check out our partner sites, everythingboardgames.com, The Giveaway Geek, and devatoastgaming.com. Some wonderful sites that have a lot of wonderful content, as well as fun giveaways, free games. Why not, right? Alright guys, well that is it for this video, and once again, I look forward to seeing you next time.